Let's go to Congressman Dave Brat. Congressman, 7th District, Virginia, Dr. Dave Brat, Republican, up for re-election for a third term. All right. Now that I got that straight. Trump's speech last night. What did you make of it?
Yeah, it was good. I just heard your comments. I thought he was very honest, which is refreshing. And so some of us want to get out of Afghanistan altogether, or as much as you can, right? And so I think there is an important note that he struck there about Pakistan having nukes. And then I heard Bolton afterwards, Ambassador Bolton talking about the one thing that was missed in the speech, which is probably pressure on China, because China has been throwing money into Pakistan. And so they're getting away with a little too much. And so President Trump ran on that. But it is tough behind that desk because he's got to contend now with a nuclear-tipped weapon from North Korea coming at us. So is he making a deal with China on that one and then just leaving some forces in Afghanistan as a buffer in the short term? And that's the hard part, where you don't know all the information there. And so most of us want to see our troops out of Afghanistan, or else at least just a piece that's passive, there to hold ground so that the Taliban and Al-Qaeda and ISIS can't be rearming. And so I do think it was very honest, and he did give some hints as to why we're keeping troops there, having to do mainly with Pakistan again. But it's a tough one in the short run, so we'll see where it goes. He did make a lot of much stronger comments that clearly demarcate from the Obama administration, that we're there to win, we're going to fight, we're not going to have an artificial timeline, and that our troops are going to have the weapons to go in for. I forget the general. When you go in, you have just an astounding defeat, right? You go in to fight to win immediately, and so overall, that's the take I have.
So that's a little vague, Congressman, a little ambiguous. So are you with him on this? Do you think he's doing the right thing or not?
Well, no. I mean, I don't think I was ambiguous. I mean, I said most of us would rather have the troops out and not having our young men and women lives at stake on that. So I want the troops to come out, except for just the minimal shell force, so that we don't lose ground there, right? You can't have another vacuum. That's what led to 9/11. And so I wouldn't be as strong as he is right now with the number of troops and the ramping it up piece, because now we will own it. And just like with the Navy ships, even when you're not at war, I mean, there's just risk all around. And now we will own this. And on the other hand, he does have some other issues to contend with. And so I give him credit for being honest and saying, here's why I changed my mind. And I still don't think he gave a strong enough case so that the average person back home gets why we're putting our young men and women at risk.
Now we're getting somewhere. You just nailed it. I agree with you 100%. That's it right there, Dave. Took you 2 minutes, but you're there.
Right.
He didn't lay I'm not convinced. I mean, I'm going to go with him because he's my president, and I'm going to go with him. I don't like it. Doesn't feel good to me. Didn't campaign for it. Said something else. I like the honesty that he said, look, I campaign. You get behind the Oval desk. It's a little bit different. My instinct said get out. Couldn't do it. Here's why. But you nailed it. He didn't make a case last night for what I don't know what the objective is. What's the objective? You know what it reminds me of, and I said this earlier, Westmoreland's strategy in Vietnam. Remember their strategy, dead Viet Cong, body bags. We want to pile up Viet Cong body bags, kill North Vietnamese, put them in body bags, stack them up, and somehow, some way, if we just kill enough of them, then they'll lose their will to fight. It didn't quite work out, did it? We lost a lot, also. And the problem is, I don't know, you kill them, they keep coming back. Now you're in a perpetuity situation. So I don't think he laid the case. I don't know what victory looks like. And what really troubles me is the Wall Street Journal op-ed that Petraeus did with McMaster a month ago that outlined a strategy in Afghanistan that basically had us in their country forever with no timeline and no benchmark. Just there because if we're not there, it'll get worse. I don't know if that's a strategy. And maybe Trump didn't have a choice. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you there also. The strategy, he laid out, kind of the bullet point overarching themes, but like you just said, not a clear strategy or the tactics that are going to be coming soon. And part of that's his theory, right? He doesn't want to announce what the tactics are going to be. So
you're right.
I agree with
that.
you.
Okay, so let's get to AUMF. Interesting, no mention of that last night. And now it's kind of fuzzy because we don't really know if there's a troop deployment because he said he wouldn't say if there is. We assume there's one. You've also got to appropriate more funds. Constitutionally, this really is Congress's decision, but it's a little vague, right?
Yeah, no, that's right. We've been working off the AUMF way back from 9/11. And so that really comes into sharp relief when you start talking about Korea. Then you're way out of the realm of that authorization for the use of military force. And so Congress there are many voices in Congress that are not happy about this. And so we'll see if we play a role in that going forward. I think there's a growing sense, members on the military committees and across the conference have been speaking up and saying they know we're abdicating our role in this. And so I think you're going to see some renewed energy on that coming up as soon as we get back.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Based on your knowledge, and you are a constitutionalist,
yep,
and the speech that the president laid out last night about his approach to Afghanistan, let's call it that, his approach.
Yep.
Do you believe that a new AUMF is needed before he goes forward or not?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's just too far removed, right? The attack on 9/11 are not the same folks that we're now fighting. The enemy's changed. And the AUMF usually has to do with the scope of the war, right? The region, the timeline, what tactics, what use of force is allowed. And so, we need to go back to that. And if it is this important, right, and that's part of what we're both saying when the president has to make this case, we need to hear that. What is the strongest case you can make so that, I'm a representative. That's my job, is to represent and go back to my people and my constituents and say, here is the rationale from the president who's making the case on why we need to use force and send our men and women into harm's way. And so that's part of the rationale. When it's this serious, we need to get together and lay that out really clearly for our folks back home.
Dave, we're just about out of time, but just so that everybody knows, the AUMF is an authorization for military force. And basically what many of us are saying is that we just want the debate to go to the well.
Right.
We're not saying vote yes or no, green or red, black or white. We're saying let's have the debate. Let's have it in the well. Let's have the president send his generals in there, make the case to Congress, and then each Congress representative, House representative, will make a decision if it makes sense or not. And he's going to need whatever the 235, whatever the number is. He needs, or 218, he needs that many votes in order for it to pass. And if they make the case, they'll pass it. If they don't, they're not. Right?
Yeah, that's right. And I did forget to mention one key piece. The economist in me always, sometimes you forget the basics, but this is a $50 billion tab for Afghanistan. And to put that in context, right, I mean, the general fund part of the Virginia budget, I think, in the 2025 billion. So you're talking, two state Virginia budgets. And last night, one of the commentators said $50 billion is more than the UK spends in total on defense. And we're spending that much alone on Afghanistan when we have pressing needs at home. And so, President Trump ran on that. He's saying, holy, we got to get it straight back home first on the trade front, on the bringing the jobs back front, the economics front. So this That's a huge number. It sometimes up in D.C. these numbers just people are lost, right? When you're 100 trillion unfunded, 50 billion, how big is that? Well, it's still huge. And you can do a lot of infrastructure. You can do a lot to get tax rates down with a number like that. You can do a lot of programs in terms of beefing up our defenses, right? The Navy, the training, the fuel. The pilots don't even have fuel to fly their planes for training.
No, you're right.
And so that's another reason, like you said, to have that debate, because all these things will come up, and then the American people can put it all into context. And the American people have an uncanny sense for getting it right? I mean, there's a gut feel out there, and the American people are very good at expressing that.
Congressman Dave Brat, we're out of time. My favorite congressman, my wife's favorite. The two most favorite people my wife has in politics, you and Trump.
That's great.
Doesn't matter what Trump does. I was telling my audience before, I'm watching TV with her last night. It doesn't matter what this president does. The people that are like just the Trump, like doesn't matter what he does. I mean, she's cheering him on. I'm like, I thought you were opposed to these wars. Oh, greatest speech ever. I love my president. No rules of engagement. Blah, blah, blah. Kill all the terrorists. I'm like, well, do you want to send your son there that's 13? Do you want to send Joseph there? If Joseph, he wants to go in the Marines and go to Afghanistan, I'm all for it. So, okay, whatever. And she says, by the way, I also love Dave Brat. So there you have it. From the
That's awesome.
Lips of my Fräulein, loves Dave Brat and Donald Trump, the cat, and I'm trying to get in the top 5. Dave, thanks for being with us. I got to roll. You're on the John Fredericks.
Tell the Fräulein I said thanks much. God
no,
bless.
she loves you to death, man.